Okay, as we said in your other module, your calendar is your time bank account. Now, I may repeat that an annoying amount upfront because this is just something that people do not grasp, and I have to get you to really appreciate and understand the power of this because it lets us build so much more on top of it. Okay, so don't make this another thing. Don't make it overcomplicated. It kind of reminds me, when I was studying in high school. Okay, listen, it's going to sound like I was in high school when dinosaurs roamed the earth, but I didn't have a Google Calendar. What I did was I had exams coming up. So I made this manual calendar, which, hello, you could still do on the board, right? Thinking, oh no, this is what I'll do. So I made this paper calendar, and what I did is I planned for studying, like, what I was going to study for the next 3 weeks. And I made it all pretty and color coordinated, and I did all this fantastic stuff. I cut to the next week where I hadn't done any studying. So then I redid the calendar, right? So I spent a lot of time putting this in play and I didn't do anything. So I'm not talking about getting fussy and then this another make work thing to do. I'm going to show you how to create a calendar that's crazy effective, very simple, and it's going to leverage your time. And it's not going to be like, Chris, I don't need one more thing to do. It's not going to be like that. All right. Because I get that. All right. It's not going to be a time filler. This really truly is a diagnostic tool, and it tells us a lot about your business. And 90% of people totally do it the wrong way, and it negatively impacts their business in a capacity that they don't even understand. So people have the tendency to, again, as I said, operate on outside forces, hop all over the place in between meetings. Like, okay, I've got these meetings, and I just try to jam things in between the meetings, which is not efficient. And then you show up in the meetings and don't even get me started with attention residue and, decision fatigue, and you're just running all over the place. It's just a hot mess. You're really like a scavenger. It's like a scavenger hunt of work with your to-do list, and your to-do list is like, gives you clues, and then you bounce all over the place in between meetings. I don't need to tell you by now, it's stressful. It's counterproductive. It wears you down. It's not working. All right. You know that. So most people then will take extra time to map out their day. And, the most successful people do that. And what will you be so surprised about is how much you learn when you start using your calendar. So again, the most successful people, the high achievers, the millionaires, all these other stuff, this is what they're doing. They plan their day. Okay. And you, again, will just constantly be amazed. It will be shocking to you, the discoveries you make. So you'll find it that you do all sorts of things in a day that you don't even count, like email. Nobody counts that. It takes up time. So time is spent, right? So you need to be looking at that. And it shows you when you're set up to fail, and it really helps you understand your workflow much more clearly. And you finally can see the time stealers. That is worth its weight in gold. Okay. So we start with the basics. Use your calendar for your work, not as a memo board, and not just for outside forces. And don't log free time that you don't have. Okay. Like, does this look familiar? I see this a lot. People will say, okay, here's my calendar. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So you've got most of Wednesday off, and you've got a really light day, Thursday and Friday. And no, I don't. I'm like, well, you don't have anything on the calendar. Yeah, these are my appointments. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing the other time? Oh, I got a ton of work. Okay, well, like what, right? So this is how, I would say a decent calendar. Look, this one here on Monday has Casino Ramo projects. Most people don't even have that. So this is probably filled out a little bit more than I'm used to seeing, but these great big gaping holes in here are not free time. So what we want to do is we want to create calendars to get really, and when I say calendars, what I mean is we're going to have different calendars that tell us information. So also here, everything you see is done in one color. So we've got one calendar. So I'll explain this. If you don't understand this yet, I'm going to show you at the end. Don't worry about it. I'm going to break it down for you, but you've got your main calendar here, but then you can create different calendars within that to give you clear, concise information, right? So that you don't need to constantly read every detail in your calendar to know what's happening that day, not to be using up brain power. And then you don't make mistakes about maybe, piggybacking a sales call right after an important presentation. That's a lot of output. We want to be mindful about our energy and not have you running in different directions. And then when you have a calendar like this, you'd have to read everything. Okay, so let's show you. Okay, because we really essentially want to be highly effective with your energy and your output. For it to be efficient, we need to do some batch work, right? So here's another one of my clients who, when she first started coming with us to work with us, she did start filling it all out, but it's too much information. You have to keep rereading everything all the time. And that's, sets off little stress bombs in your head. Like, okay, wait, I got to put that appointment there after that one. What's happening that day? And then you read it. Oh, right, I got that meeting. So then it just takes your mind in all different directions. So what we want to do is we want to have something clear and concise like this. So in this case, I have different colors for different things. I use purple for any virtual meeting I have. This is work within the company. In my case, I put a very bright orange color for anything where I am kind of essentially performing. If I am going to be a guest on a podcast, if I'm going to be doing a speaking gig, if anything like that, or if I'm hosting my own podcast. So different things like that. But that way I don't have me doing a podcast, doing a sales meeting, and then a virtual call, right? And I also, I dress different on the days I'm just doing, some content writing. That's different. I can, just be wearing my sweats and life is good, right? So this gives you a real clear overview of what you need to be doing, what your output, almost really like how you're performing. And this is just like, it's almost like too much information and not enough at the same time, right? So let's see us having more information clearly so we can do batch work, save time and set up. That's another thing. Then you just, when I'm setting up for my podcast, whether I'm doing a bunch of shows I'm going to be a guest on or for my own, then I just do my setup once and I've got 3 or 4 interviews. And that's the same thing with sales calls or anything like that. So with batch work, it saves you time and setup, saves you brain power. You work best in energy cycles. It increases your productivity. And here too, it also lets you monitor how you do. Like, I don't want to do a bunch of podcast interviews on a Friday afternoon at the end of a long week. So, then I can see, I figure out I do better with quiet content writing on Fridays. So by having it all together in the batch work, I can see where I should be putting those activities of batch work. Okay. So here, some categories to consider are, because we also don't want to get crazy. We want to have just a few categories, maybe start off with 3, 5 at the most. We don't need 7, 3 to 5 forever, right? So 1 to me is virtual meetings, anything purple. So it could be with a client, it could be a sales call, it could be anything. Now in there, you'll see that I will put, virtual meeting, it's purple. I might have Sarah, right? Sarah's my client. And if it's strategy call, it'll be virtual meeting, strategy call. If you have a lot of sales calls and they're really important to you and you really want to have that a different color, go ahead. Company work, when you're working on the business, not just in it, you have to put that on the calendar. That's not something you do at the end of whenever time, when you find time. Like that's just not how it works, right? For me, I do any kind of performance podcast speaking, that's a different color, but a lot of people aren't doing that. So you don't have to do that. But for me, that's important because I know my phone has to be shut off. I have to be dressed a certain way. It's a performance, right? So that's a different color. And personal. A lot of people forget to put a personal calendar, and that really matters. I'm not suggesting put at 8 o'clock at night that you're going to do laundry, but I am suggesting that if you're at a family event all day Sunday, the kids' soccer tournaments, grandkids' soccer tournaments, whatever, then maybe Monday, you're going to see that on the calendar, and maybe Monday morning wouldn't be when you do that really important presentation, right? So it does let you know, you can put the details on the calendar, which would be on your phone. And now you're going, oh, here's where we are. We have to go to this address. That's important. But it's really important also for your workflow to know where your energy is going that week, right? And a bonus one that I do that I think helps a lot is I do a not confirmed. I know that we are often all relying on different automations like Calendly and stuff like that. But in my case, let's say I'm getting somebody on my podcast that's a VIP. Like I'm not sending them my calendar link, I'm going off theirs, or maybe we're going back and forth in email. And, I did this recently. This guy's like, yeah, I'll be on your show. And he was a big ticket item. He said, but we got to figure out when, because I'm booked for months of speaking gigs. So I gave him a couple of dates. So then what I do is I have a calendar on my calendar and it's yellow. It's called not confirmed. So I put the time I gave him and his name in yellow there because it shows me it's not confirmed and he'll get back to me. So also if I get closer to that date and hey, he hasn't confirmed that, I won't get confused with him being on the calendar, me thinking, hey, how come he didn't show? Oh, that was supposed to, that wasn't confirmed. He didn't get back to me, or worse is you give him a couple dates. He takes a week to get back to you. And then those dates are filled. Or even worse than that, I'll tell you, this happened like 12 years ago and I never forgot it. This guy and I were going back and forth email, like 8 emails. And finally we picked a date. And I guess somewhere in my brain, I was like, oh, goal has been achieved. We found a date. But I forgot to put it on my calendar because we've been going back and forth so much. So after all that, he showed up and I wasn't there. I was gutted and devastated. But if I'd put not confirmed, because I was thinking, oh, well, we kept picking so many dates. I didn't want to hold up a spot in my calendar that he wasn't going to take. Anyhow, so that non-confirmed really, I think, helps a lot. Use it, don't use it. It's your call. So let's create one together. Okay. So here we are in the calendar. And what we can do is we can go up here to this gear and just do that. So you'll see over here, the not confirmed I was just talking about. So let's say I had an appointment, whatever, somebody really important, Mr. or Ms. important. Okay. And then I would just go here, not confirmed. So now I see that I'm waiting to hear back from them. So that's helps. So let's create a calendar. Go here to settings and we're going to create a calendar, add calendar and create a new calendar. And they're just going to go test. So I don't forget it, but we could call it test virtual meetings. Okay. Just create a calendar. No big deal there. Okay. So then when we go back here, it's to the side. Now I put test virtual meetings just so I can delete it afterwards and I forget. When we go in there, we can pick, oops, check it off. We can pick the color we want it to be. I personally, there's a lot of psychology to colors. I think the more important stuff, I make it bolder. Like my performance ones are orange, my virtual meetings are purple, and then I kind of pick softer colors, but you do what you want. So let's say here, we're just making this red, a funny kind of red. So then we go here and that's it. So, and then every time we have a meeting with Sarah and she's a virtual meeting, we just go down here and that's it. I've seen people where they thought they had to go in and change the color every time. I don't know why they give you those color things, but you don't need to pick that. You just pick what it is and you're good to go. And then in case you make a mistake or you want to do something, here we are. I'm just going to now delete that calendar. Oh, sorry, cancel, remove calendar. Yeah, there we go. Ah, I just removed the wrong calendar. That's okay. I'll fix this after the video. Okay. So that's what you want to do. You want to do back, and then it lets you do back to work, and we'll dive into that into another show. I think I'm doing, not that I think I'm important. I think that I'm on a podcast. I'm not. All right. Thanks so much.